Listen to me now.
Yes, family. So it's upright and upright. Open your eyes, don't be blind. And the quicker we open our eyes, the quicker we start to use our own sense, the quicker we can come together, the quicker we can make things happen, the quicker we can be free. Like when you think about this free world and we can do anything you want, like when you was a child. But guess what, family? We was like on a journey and coming to our journey now. It's time for us to do our own journey, you know what I mean? Like the journey, not what the school teaches, but what the universe teaches. It's just like when you get a dream, you understand me? So upright and upright. So we're gonna talk about
Followed the money. I've learned that almost everything I once believed about money is simply not true. Dollars.
all right. So you can know the topic what we're gonna talk about, yeah? All right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to share the live same way. Help me to share it, help me to help each other and make we can work together and grow together, build together and all of these things. You know what I mean, family? I'm not an enemy of you, you are not an enemy of me. You know what I mean? When we go to war, it's not like when you're going to war, you're going to fight your war, you're going to fight someone else's war, maybe someone family war. You understand me? So wake up and shake up and make we come together. Yeah, family. So this one, the video what I'm going to share, I'm showing you every day a hero has born. You know what I mean? And when that hero born, you was that hero too. You know what I mean? Hero of your own destiny, hero of your journey, hero of the earth, protect the protection. You understand me? So upright and upright. Love you so much. Yes, family.
Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom.
Family. So, like what man said, remember, it's like every day, make I look you in the face, yeah? Every day, yeah? Like what me say, every day, yeah? A hero as born, yeah? And being that hero, what just born, family? Family, yeah, every day a hero as born. You was born as an hero. But you see, the system, it mislead you. You understand me? Yeah. And brainwash you, abuse you, use you, confuse you, and refuse you. And that, if you've been through that, abusing, misleading, looking down on family, you are an hero. So you see, every day a hero has born. Yeah, you are that hero. So inbox me and come to your higher self and come to your conscious self. You understand me? Because the fooler you are, or the more you ignore things, the more life will get hard. You understand me? So remember, every day a hero born, and you is that hero. So open your eyes, me say, don't be blind. Open your mind, know how to think. Open your mouth, know what to say. Satan is just a vibration. It's just a thinking. It's just a thinking to mislead you and mislead me. Inbox me. Yes, family Hannibal. How you talk about, man? What? I'm out. Yeah, man. For real, family animal. A long time I not really hear from you, know. You know what I mean? Yeah, man. For real, man. So, yeah, man. Sometimes you have to pop on the live to a family animal. Remember when we used to pop on the live and share our inner right and all of them thing there? So, it nice see me, you know what I mean? Yeah, man. Better than a plate of rice, you know? Yeah, man. For real, family animal. I share the link still. But enough love goes out to you, family animal, yeah? Alright, enough love family. So me just share the link same way. Alright, so while I'm sharing the link, I'm going to make the money video run. You know, I love you so much, family.
Follow the money. I've learned that almost everything I once believed about money is simply not true.
It's interesting how few questions we actually ask about very everyday things, like when we go into a bank and we ask for a loan of, say, $50,000, £50,000, what actually happens? You see, most people live their lives based on a kind of vague image of what happens. What actually happens is you ask for £50,000, they type into your account £50,000. That's all they do. They don't mint any coins, they don't print any money, they don't move any precious metal anywhere. They just put £50,000 into your account on a computer screen. From that moment, you start paying interest on money that has never, does not, and will never exist.
It turns out that banks actually have about 9 times as much money loaned out as they have on reserve in their vaults. This is possible because of what's referred to as fractional reserve lending. The way it works is that the Federal Reserve, or the central bank in any country, is legally allowed to determine the amount a bank must have on reserve. In the US, it's currently around 10%. So if you deposit $10,000 into the bank sets aside 10%, or $1,000, and then loans out the rest of your money. The way it works is, say another person comes into the bank and asks for a car loan of $9,000. At this moment, the bank loans out the $9,000 from your original deposit. It isn't there anymore. The borrower then pays the person selling the car, and they go deposit the money into another bank, which is part of the same central banking system. This $9,000 is treated as a new deposit, and the process continues. The money gets redeposited and reloaned until the initial deposit of $10,000 becomes $100,000. The banking system just created $90,000 by loaning out your money. Apparently it began with the goldsmiths in the 17th century when people were trading in gold. Gold was heavy to carry around, so people stored the actual metal in vaults and traded receipts instead. Those receipts were the first paper money. Since only a few people would withdraw their gold at any given time, the vault owners, basically the new bankers, began creating receipts for more metals than they actually held. They loaned out those receipts and charged interest on money, gold, that they didn't really have. That's how our so-called fractional reserve system was born. In this system, the bankers get to make up money out of nothing, while the rest of us have to work hard to earn it. It has created a modern form of serfdom where the mass of society is now working to pay off their debt to the banks. Under this fractional reserve scheme, we inevitably become debt slaves to a ruling class of financial elite, not because they are better or smarter than anyone else, but because they have rigged the system to benefit themselves at the expense of most people on the planet. Catherine Austin Fitts is an expert on this issue. She was an Assistant Secretary of Housing and Urban Development under President George Bush Sr., and then an advisor to the Clinton administration.
Let's set up a game of Monopoly and you want to buy Park Place. What I can continually do is just print money, give myself more money, lower the value of your money by printing more. No matter how hardworking you are or how successful you are, I can always end up buying you for free.
So how come if you or I make up money, it's called counterfeiting? But if the banks do it, it's increasing the money supply. How did the banks get this power? This is Jekyll Island, where in 1910, representatives from the Rockefellers, Rothschilds, Morgans, and other private bankers gathered secretly to draft the legislation that would create the Federal Reserve. Ed Griffin literally wrote the book on what happened at Jekyll Island.
Central banks are banking cartels which have gone into partnership with the respective governments in the countries where they operate. And they've been given monopolistic power over the creation of the nation's money supply. That's what the politicians handed to them as a gift, you might say, for the partnership. Now, in return, what did the bankers do for the politicians? They promised to create money out of nothing, now that they've got this legal power to do it anytime the government needs it.
And since 2008, we've witnessed the greatest fake money printing run in recorded history. This financial sleight of hand disguises the costs, hides who's to blame, and leaves us as debt slaves working to pay off the bill. I found it revealing that in the same year the Federal Reserve was founded, 1913, the Internal Revenue Service was also established. An income tax was then instigated so you and I would have to pay the politicians' debt plus interest to the bankers.
The problem is we have a privately owned central bank system in the United States disguised as a government-owned system. Now, if you look in the telephone book here in the Washington, D.C. area, you look up for Federal Reserve in the blue government pages, it's not there. It's in the white pages right next to Federal Express. It's a privately owned central bank.
What is the proper relationship, what should be the proper relationship between a chairman of the Fed and a president of the United States?
Well, first of all, the Federal Reserve is an independent agency, and that means basically that there is no other agency of government which can overrule actions that we take. There is no other agency of government which can overrule actions that we take.
We have a private bank that prints money on behalf of the Treasury. The Federal Reserve prints money on a debt-based system which creates scarcity. But it puts a group of insiders in a position of having access to all the data about the economy when we don't. So you have a small group of bankers who understand the data on how the money works in the economy, and it gives them the ability to print money in a way that the insiders are protected and everybody else is drained.
Catherine went on to compare a healthy economy to a vibrant torus, balanced, freely.
Money does not exist.
Out. In contrast to what's happening in our current economy.
What you have is a system that's very dynamic, and it's trying to optimize. But intertwined in the core of it, you have a tapeworm. The way a tapeworm works in your body is it injects a chemical into your body that makes you crave what's good for the tapeworm and bad for you. You have a parasite that's very much manipulating and engorging itself at the expense of the whole.
We live in a tapeworm economy where the financial elite are the tapeworm and they're feeding on us. And they don't like it when people blow their cover. After Catherine began exposing government corruption at the highest levels, the FBI raided her company and seized its assets. She was dragged through the courts for 10 years before being found innocent. So we've got the Federal Reserve, a privately owned corporation with a monopoly on creating money, but with no accountability, backed up by a government with a monopoly on force. The country got sold on the Fed as an institution that would help stabilize the economy and remain independent of politics. But in fact, in close to a century of existence, the Federal Reserve has done just the opposite. Since they took charge, we've been robbed through inflation, and the purchasing power of the dollar has declined more than 96%. And the wealth gap makes it clear most of the money is going to a very few. Only 16 years after the Federal Reserve was in power, America experienced the Great Depression. My research revealed that before the big crash in 1929, the elite bankers pulled their money out of the stock market. After the crash, they used that money to buy up cheap stocks and smaller failing banks for pennies on the dollar. Among the bankers who consolidated their wealth this way were the Rothschilds, Rockefellers, and Morgans. A similar scenario played out in the 2008 financial collapse, with the same bankers benefiting. In the years leading up to the collapse, the biggest banks, including Bank of America, Citigroup, and Chase, controlled by the Rothschilds, Rockefellers, and Morgans, were bundling and trading bad loans that they knew would eventually fail. It's like putting rotten oranges in a box and selling them as grade AAA. The bundlers of the debt knew it was only a matter of time before someone would open that box and see that the content was worthless, since they were the ones who packed the boxes in the first place. When the rotten oranges, what we hear about as unsound loans, derivatives, and credit default swaps, were finally discovered, everyone was impacted. People lost their homes, their jobs, their businesses, and their retirements. Meanwhile, the biggest banks who created the problem in the first place were the ones who got bailed out. Why's that? David Icke explains how he sees the Federal Reserve rigging the so-called business cycles.
Stage one, it's like throwing a fishing line out. Stage one, you put lots of money, units of exchange, into circulation. You do this by pushing interest rates down, by making lots of loans. This is the part of the cycle we call a boom. Because there's lots of units of exchange in circulation, there's lots of money changing hands. That generates lots of economic activity. That generates jobs. And as more and more money is spent, there's more demand, so companies take out more loans of fresh air money to increase their production. People get confident in their everyday lives. Hey, you know, I work for this company, they've got lots of orders, it's really going great, my job's safe, I tell you what, we're going to have a bigger house. Then they start to change it. What they do is they pull the fishing line in. They push interest rates up. Now, fewer people, are taking out loans, and they make the criteria for having a loan from the bank stronger anyway. And also, now, as interest rates have gone up, a larger part of people's income is going to pay back the extra interest and not being circulated in buying things. Suddenly, there's nothing like as much money in circulation, and therefore, fewer things are being bought. Companies start to go down in terms of their profits. They start to shed jobs, and they start to go out of business. People lose their jobs. They can't pay the mortgage anymore of the big house they took out in the good times. Now what the banks are doing is starting to reel the fishing line in, because as they go bankrupt, companies and individuals, the banks get the real wealth, the property, the land, the resources that they had signed to them for lending merely figures on a screen. Now this economic cycle of fishing line out, fishing line back, lots of units in circulation, pull them in, has been going on for centuries. And what it's done, it's stolen and accumulated the real wealth of the world in the hands of the few.
Yeah, I don't know what go on family. Cause them block me off what they call it now, YouTube, because the video was too powerful for them, you know what I mean? So maybe I use the next live and just kick it off again, you know what I mean, family? Yeah, so same topic and same vibration and everything like that, you know what I mean? Yeah, man, for real, man. So I hope bright enough, family. And the truth of it reveal, you know what I mean? Yeah, man. So I'm still live on YouTube, but I don't know if everyone have my YouTube live, you know what I mean? Yeah, man, for real, man. So what may I go do? I go stop the live and what I'm saying now? Yeah, it's just like everything stop in it, family. So if everything stop, yeah, them cut off all my YouTube live in it. Yeah, I don't know why them cut the live. Maybe it's like I was like playing some video powerful, you know what I mean? Yeah, so I just my bad, you know what I mean? Because I like to watch reality. I don't like watch commercial. And remember, I am here not to be talking, but to say, all right, family, we know what's going on. And if you know what's going on, we have to work together because the banking system is there to enslave us. It don't look like that, but that is what they are doing. You know what I mean? You know, like they say, the truth is in front you. You know what I mean? Or you have a veil over your eye. You understand, my family? So the video, what I was playing was advertising, like showing you the dark secret of the bank. You know what I mean? All of the billionaires. You know what I mean? All right, I'm gonna show you the next thing about money. Remember our money topic. So everything I'm going to play is about money, yeah?
Hypothetical concept that we all collect.
All right, so remember, family, is like nobody judge the video, them just listen to them and hear what they are saying, yeah? Yeah, just have an open mind.
Good, my name is Charity Croft, and money does not exist. It's just a hypothetical concept that we all collectively agree exists. And so here's a video where I tell you about the crazy, unimaginable, unbelievable truth that you never knew about money. What you know of as money is called fiat currency. The word fiat means a proposition or an arbitrary order. The word arbitrary means random or personal choice. So that means that the government has basically said to you, money exists, nigga, because we say it do. Do so. The story gets crazier. Now, the dollar did used to be backed by gold, but that ended in 1971 when the government decided, and I quote, that the US dollar would be backed by full faith and credit. They said, nigga, believe. Yeah, after that, it became just paper. And then after that, now people just use credit and debit, so it's not even paper. So what is it? It's imagination. Seriously, I want you to consider that if you were to cash at me $50, what just happened? Because again, no more paper. It's not backed by anything. There's not actually anything from any one bank going to another bank. That's not what actually happens. Nothing. Banks don't actually send money from bank to bank like physical dollars. So what's being transferred when you send something from one person to another person? Nigga, nothing. Nothing. Belief, trust, like literally it's just an imaginary concept that we call value, that we use to stand for value, that actually literally is not anything. You may ask, well, Charity, why is this important? Why are you saying this to us? Well, because people kill and murder over something that literally doesn't exist. There are more abandoned houses in America than there are homeless people. This idea that houses need to cost something, that food needs to cost something, that existence on earth needs.
Yeah, it's just like if you're gonna say we should have living in a free world, innit? Yeah, like why something supposed to have price on it when we are the price? You know what I mean? We are the price in a family. And we have to know these things. You know what I mean? You are the expense. You know what I mean? Depends how much you value yourself. And there is nothing in this world can value life. You know what I mean? There's nothing can value you. So you have to value yourself. As paper money is nothing. Having a big house is nothing. Being a millionaire is nothing. All right, family.
Needs to cost something. We made it up. We made it up. It could be free. There's a quote that I heard that you should remember. It went like this. It said, human beings are the only animals alive that pay to live on Earth. So before a bunch of Instagram economists jump down my throat, let me be clear. We do need something to represent value. For example, I have no interest in making or building cars, but I still want to drive a car. So the person that does make or build my car should be compensated something for that time. So there should be some level of exchange. I'm not saying that there shouldn't be some type of way in which we reciprocate and exchange value in a world in which we need each other. What I'm saying is that we shouldn't be fighting and killing and murdering over it, because if people had at least the bare minimum, survival, food, shelter, clothing, the things necessary, like an internet connection, like the things necessary to like exist freely, water, right? The things that matter to human existence shouldn't cost things. And because of how we've been brainwashed by this concept of money and working and value, we make everything cost things. Let's just make extra shit cost things, not survival, nigga. I want to say to you with all my heart and with everything in me that you are powerful. You don't have to passively exist in this world because it's the way it has always been. You can shift the world. We are powerful humans. If you desire to learn more about this, learn this beauty of who you fully are, the world that we can create, I have something called the Genius Factory.
Yes, family. He's a good brother still, you know what I mean? But remember, say, it's like, sometimes family try to take you out of the box and put you into a next box. You know what I mean? Not because you know the truth, that means say you are real. You know what I mean? It's when you start to use the truth and use it for the purpose. If you say, oh, things should not exist, yeah, like money, killing, poison, you know what I mean, uneducated, you know what I mean, and all these things, that don't mean it's like I'm going to watch the world destroy. Like when you get your knowledge, it's not to destroy the earth, it's to protect the earth in it, family. Yeah, when you have your knowledge, you know, and you don't use it. This is what a sister tell me on the weekend, yeah. You see, if you have your knowledge, yeah, and you don't use it, it's like you worse than the wicked man. You worse than the evil man, because life give that knowledge to you. Life give that body to you. Life give you that knowledge so you can share the knowledge. That's why I say, family, calling, and when you're calling, don't afraid to talk, family. You know what I mean? Cause I play video what family, they even block me from YouTube. You know, they block me from YouTube, so I don't fear them in it, family. I play anything, you know what I mean? I'm not with no corporation where I'm gonna say, oh, I'm against that, or oh yeah, I can't play that. Only thing I don't really play is just the injection videos, you know what I mean? But otherwise, because I got like heap of video with Bill Gates doing wrongs, you know what I mean? Like loads of video with Bill Gates is doing things wrong. But at the moment, I can't really say play them on YouTube, you know what I mean? Because YouTube and Bill Gates are big Bill Gates Corporation, they are working together. You understand me? Yeah, just like Facebook is working with Bill Gates. You understand me? Just like all these platforms out there, they are linked to each other. You understand me? They're linked to the brother who named Elon Musk. You understand me? The whole of them is a friend. You know what I mean? But we are family. You know what I mean? Because they say they are friends. But we are family. So this topic is about money.
My last slide, because my 12 minutes is just up, have reacted to the truth coming. How have the central bankers, this is my last slide, because my 12 minutes is just up, have reacted to the truth coming out? They admit that they've been telling porkies, and now they propose to increase their power. So central bankers belatedly admit, oh, Oh, now that you've mentioned it, yes, banks create the money supply. So let's abolish that now. And also, by the way, let's abolish cash. So what should we do? Well, introduce digital cyber currency that central banks issue and control, and thereby gain total control over all economic transactions, decisions, and the whole lot you've just heard from the CEO of the GDI. So the greatest concentration of central banking power in history is really the bid they're aiming at. That's the central bank's goal. And of course, digital accounts of dissenters and regime critics could be switched off. It'd be very difficult to even purchase necessities. So this is an Orwellian dystopia of total control, the end of any freedoms. That's really what central banks are aiming at. Several central banks have, like the Bank of England, already prepared their microchip implant, RFID chip, to be implanted under your skin. And why is the sudden discussion about universal basic income from all the grassroots and inverted commas movements and billionaires? Oh, universal basic income is the bribe for you to accept the microchip. The overarching trend of the 20th century is concentration of power in the hands of the few. That's what we have to keep in mind. We have to work against this. We don't want to have these unaccountable central planners making decisions. We need decentralization, and the solution, therefore, is to maintain public money in the hands of local community banks, decentralize decision-making, give local people the power in the form of local public banks and local not-for-profit community banks. As I walked in, I was delighted to see that the Gottlieb Duttweiler Institute is also about Genossenschaften, cooperatives, and of course, the majority of banks in Germany are cooperative banks, and that's really what we need. So
yes, family, the brother, he talk some good things, you know what I mean? He talk some good things, and remember, the topic, it just start up, you know what I mean? And we just hit money. Money is the root of all, the love of money is the root of all, you know what I mean, evil and death to us, you know what I mean? So, know it.
It is the principle of self-discipline. Self-discipline, as I am presenting it to you here, has reference not only to your mastery of negative habits, which stand in the way of your success, but more particularly to your development and enforcement of the positive habits you will need in order to avail yourself of the 6 assets you brought over with you in that sealed envelope I mentioned in our first visit. Now let me give you a list of the more important things over which you will have to exercise self-discipline before you can embrace and use the great master key to riches. 1, you will have to gain mastery over your tongue by acquiring the habit of thinking first and then speaking after you are sure that what you say will benefit you and not injure others. A loose tongue often is one's greatest liability. 2, you will have to exercise self-discipline in mastering the common tendency to strike back at those at whom you have a cause, real or imaginary, for a grievance. You must remember that everything you do to or for another, you do to or for yourself, because your every thought and every act which benefits or injures another person comes back to you in kind, greatly multiplied. So, if you feel that you must slander another person, do not speak it, but write it. Write it in the sands near the water's edge, then move away from it until the tides have flown. 3, you will have to exercise self-discipline over all of your emotions, particularly your emotions of love, hate, fear, and sex. These are the big 4 of your emotions, and they can make you or break you according to the extent of discipline you exercise over them. 4, your mental attitude needs discipline and control at all times. Lacking this discipline, it can, and it often does, drive away friends, destroy opportunities to get ahead, brings on physical and mental illness, develops stomach ulcers, and makes peace of mind impossible. 5. I have reserved the emotion of sex for special mention because failure to exercise self-discipline over this emotion probably heads the list of all the causes of personal failure. The emotion of sex is the most powerful of all emotions, and it is nature's great creative instrument with which all species of living things are perpetuated. The proper means of self-discipline of the emotion of sex is transmutation, the control and direction of this great emotional feeling toward the attainment of worthy purposes, such as the fulfillment of one's major purpose in life. The great leaders, artists, orators, industrialists, and professional people have learned the art of sex transmutation through the proper system of self-discipline. Because of the delicacy of the subject of sex emotion, I am limited as to the information I can give you about it on this visit. But I have covered the subject much more in detail in some of my books. And 6, your stomach also needs discipline through the proper habits of dieting and fasting. Because information on dieting and fasting should come from your own doctor. I will not go into details concerning them, except to call your attention to the need for knowledge on this subject. Personally, I attribute my sound physical health mainly to the habits of dieting and fasting, which I have developed through the years. And 7, you will need to exercise self-discipline in relation to religion and politics, because our country, which is the most acceptable form of society civilization has yet produced, is made up of people of varying beliefs in connection with both of these subjects. To be happy and prosperous in our country, we must learn to live and to let live, to give others the privileges we ask and demand for ourselves. And this often calls for strict discipline over self. 8, but I have reserved until the last my reference to the most important circumstances over which you must exercise the strictest of self-discipline if you are to embrace and use the great master key to riches. I have reference to your profound privilege of taking possession of your own mind and directing it to whatever ends you may desire. You cannot take possession of your own mind or direct it to definite ends without a practical system. I have devoted the better portion of my past life to the revelation and presentation of such a system. And I know that this system works because it has been successfully used by many millions of people throughout the world. The system is not only practical and workable, but it is so simple that anyone who is ready for it may master it and use it successfully. Its use does not call for a genius nor a great amount of formal education. It calls only for a will to take possession of one's own mind and a definite purpose to which the mind is to be directed. Self-discipline by Thomas A. Edison made him the world's greatest inventor, who revealed to mankind during the first half of the 20th century more of nature's secrets than had been uncovered during the entire previous history of civilization. Self-discipline carried Wilbur and Orville Wright through a multitude of failures and enabled them finally to give the world its first practical airplane, an achievement which has made the world smaller and changed the entire trend of civilization. Self-discipline helped Helen Keller to triumph over deafness, blindness, and dumbness, a combination of afflictions such as most people never experience. Self-discipline helped me to carry on through years of heart-aching discouragement and defeat, and give the world the first practical philosophy of success based on the know-how gained by hundreds of men and women who spent a lifetime by the trial and error method in discovery of the principles which lead to personal success. Self-discipline is among the top-ranking features of all the great religions, including, of course, the Christian faith. And there are some people who believe that our major purpose on earth is that of developing wisdom through struggle and self-discipline. One thing is certain. No one ever becomes very wise without the aid of self-discipline, and no one ever finds peace of mind and happiness without the strict exercise of self-discipline. Self-discipline is the only means of transmuting sorrow into faith. It is the only means by which we may transmute hatred of others into the milder emotion of sympathy for them. It is the only means by which we may reveal and profit by the seed of an equivalent benefit which comes with every adversity and every defeat. It is the only means by which we may shut out of our minds the deadly effects of past experiences of suffering and unpleasantness. And it is the means by which we may discover that other self we carry around with us, that self which has great capacity for belief and does not become influenced by failure and defeat. Self-discipline can give us freedom from the fear of death, the most difficult to master of all of our fears. It can free us from the disease of hypochondria, the fear of imaginary illness with which so many people suffer and sometimes die. Self-discipline is the means by which we may think our own thoughts, live our own lives as we wish to live them, and remain forever free from the evils of fears and limitations which we have inherited from the dark ages before the dawn of civilization. The Creator never gives one an asset or benefit without passing along with it the means by which it may be embraced and used. Self-discipline, therefore, is the means by which the Creator provided us with a method of embracing and using the only thing over which we have unchallengeable control, the power of our own thoughts. And now, until our next visit, may I remind you that the habit of taking the line of least resistance makes all rivers and some men crooked.
Do you notice that they have the same amount of ink on them? Do you notice that they're made out of the same virtually worthless stuff? It's paper. Did you get it? It's paper. When we create money, we have created an instrument of value that has no value of its own. And it's just as expensive or inexpensive to print the 20 as it is to print the 1. I'm here to prove to you that bankers, especially in the Federal Reserve System, make multiplied trillions of dollars and never create one thing of value. Are you with me? Do you want to learn this or not? Are you sure? An automaker might make 1 or 2% profit. A builder might make 10% profit. But the printers of money have no limit to the amount of money they can create and the wealth that they can create for themselves. Money's the bloodline of a civilized society. It's the instrument by which a product is sold or bought. Reduce the supply of money below the necessary levels to sustain trade. Reduce the amount of this in the system below the levels necessary to sustain the current trade, and you create a depression. In 1930, let me ask you a question. Did we not have farms? In 1930, did we not have factories? Did we have the greatest roadway system in the world at that time? Yes. Did we have the greatest communication system in the world at that time? Yes. Did we have the greatest opportunity of trade with oceans on both sides and water systems like the Mississippi River running through the width and breadth of this nation? Did we have ability to move our goods and services? Yes. Did we have transportation and roadways? Yes. What did we not? Did we lack workers? Then what happened? I'll tell you what happened. the bankers decided no more money for you. They got out of the stock market. I can give you the family names. They got out of the stock market the year before. Do you know all the money that was lost in the stock market as people began to sell their stocks one after the other, after the other, after the other, and stocks that were valued at $10,000 were selling for 15 cents? And then they had to make a run on the bank because the banks, the stock market had said, oh, I'll tell you what you can do. You can borrow on margin. In other words, you can buy, the economy's really good here in the late 20s. Here's what you can do. You can borrow on margin for stocks. You can buy a stock at $100 worth of stock. You can buy it for $10, and we'll lend you the other money to buy the stock, and the stock is skyrocketing, so you stand to make a great profit. What they didn't tell the American people, and what you still don't know today, is that when they did that, they also put into that legislation that they would have a 24-hour recall. In other words, however much stock you bought, it would make a lot of money, but they could call that stock in, and you would be required not only to pay for the stock, but to pay for what you borrowed at interest from them. In other words, now you got to pay the $100 that they loaned you, but they're the ones that are calling it in. So when they called it in, you didn't have the money to pay for it, so you ran to the bank. But the bank only keeps 20% money on hand. They loan the rest of it out, so only 20% of the people could get any of their money out of the bank. So the banks collapsed, the stock market collapsed, all at the whim of the bankers who decided they wanted to make the money. Watch me. Watch me. All that stuff was being sold. $100,000 farms were selling for $3,000. Who do you think bought them? Why are you looking at me funny? You know what you're looking at? You're looking like sheep that have been led to the slaughter and didn't know it. I'm going to continue. Can I continue? We didn't lack industrial capability. If you don't believe me, I just told you what started the Great Depression. Let me tell you what ended it. World War II. And all of a sudden, the same banks that said no money for farms, no money for food, put people in soup lines, no money for commerce, no money for railroads, no money for roads, no money, no money. All of a sudden said, war? And all of a sudden, factories that were closed down began to work 3 shifts. Where'd the money come from? The same pockets that refused to give it before. Because they decide when it will be printed, how much will be printed, and how much usury or interest will be paid. Not the federal government. The federal government has no say in it, as I will prove to you. Say, debt is a devil. By the simple manipulation of a few wealthy bankers, World War II ended the Great Depression. After successive failures to convince the public of the need of a central bank by wars, these same European bankers financed both sides of the Civil War in this country. You don't even know that. Same bankers, same families, financed both sides of the Civil War. Why? They make the money. After they couldn't get the American people to swallow the lie of a central bank by creating war, they decided they would artificially create, listen to me, recessions, depressions, inflations, and panics. Since only a small amount of deposits are stored at the bank, about 20%, the other 80% is out on loan with security of property and your promise to pay it back. A simple rumor of a bank's insolvency would make a run on that bank. Everybody'd get nervous, go pull their money out of the bank, and that bank would collapse. And then the international bankers who started the rumor in the first place would look like prophets. P-R-O-P-H-E-T-S, prophets. Are you hearing something you've never known? Wave your hand. If you think America ought to know, wave your other hand. All right, then don't quit on me. One of the key movers and shakers of this, let's get a central bank by making the people afraid by causing their banks to collapse. One of the key movers and shakers was a man by the name of, you might recognize it, J.P. Morgan. His father was an agent for the wealthy, you might know this name, Rothschild family. Here's a quote. The Federal Reserve. In 1869, J.P. Morgan went to London and reached an agreement for a company known as the Northern Securities that was intended to act as the international bank, as the agent for the Rothschild company in the United States. The first major panic created by the international bankers occurred in 1893 when local bankers from around the nation were told to call in all their loans. Told by who? By these wealthy bankers. Senator Robert Owen testified before a congressional committee that the call on the banks, testified before a congressional committee that the bank he owned, this was a senator, received from the National Bankers Association what came to be known as the Panic Circular of 1893. It stated, you will at once retire 1/3 of your circulation and call in 1/2 of all your loans. Why? Because that makes the bank collapse.
Not really understand the concept of banking. All the banks are broke. Bank Santander, Deutsche Bank, Royal Bank of Scotland, they're all broke. And why are they broke? It isn't an act of God. It isn't some sort of tsunami. They're broke because we have a system called fractional reserve banking, which means that banks can lend money that they don't actually have. It's a criminal scandal, and it's been going on for too long. To add to that problem, you have moral hazard, a very significant moral hazard from the political sphere. And most of the problem starts in politics and central banks, which are part of the same political system. We have counterfeiting, sometimes called quantitative easing, but counterfeiting by any other name. The artificial printing of money, which if any ordinary person did, they'd go to prison for a very long time. And yet governments and central banks do it all the time. Central banks repress the amount of interest that rates are, so we don't have the real cost of money. And yet we blame the real retail banks for manipulating LIBOR. The sheer effrontery of this is quite astonishing. It's central banks that manipulate interest rates, Commissioner. And plus, underneath all this, we talk loosely, in a rather cavalier fashion, do we not, about deposit guarantees. So when banks go broke through their own incompetence and chicanery, the taxpayer picks up the tab. It's theft from the taxpayer. And until we start sending bankers, and I include central bankers and politicians, to prison for this outrage, it will continue.
They want to create a new currency called the Amero, right? And the whole agenda is to create a one world government where everybody has an RFID chip implanted in them. All money is to be in those chips, right? There'll be no more cash. And this is getting me straight from Rockefeller himself. This is what they want to accomplish. And all money will be in your chips. And so instead of having cash, anytime you have money in your chip, they can take out whatever they want to take out whenever they want to. If they say you owe us this much money in taxes, they just deduct it out of your chip digitally.
Total control.
Total control.
Digital currency, to your point, means total control of every currency unit. You're able to know where every single yuan in the case of China or dollar in the case of the US is. You can't avoid income taxes. You can restrict people's ability to use this. All the units are registered on the blockchain. No counterfeiting is possible.
And that chip's connected to a database that has your purchasing records, what you do, what
Everything.
you sell.
Everything is in there, you know? And so they want a one world government controlled by them, everybody being chipped, all your money in those chips, and they control the chips, and they control people, and you become a slave, you become a serf to these people. That's their goal, that's their intention.
They have the ability to control or manage the money supply. It's really a piece of software that exists on something like a blockchain that enables them to create scarcity, right, and monitor every single dollar, if you will, every single block that is in circulation. And that's really and so by doing that, they can instantly invoke fiscal and monetary policy.
As you're about to see in our CBS 46 investigation, it's not fiction. In fact, it's being marketed in Georgia as life-saving technology. So why do some experts say it's potentially deadly? CBS 46's Kim Fedek investigates.
It's used in key cards, prepaid tolls, even checked luggage. It's called RFID technology, or radio frequency identification. Small chips that store information.
So here's the chip.
And now that same technology is literally available in the flesh, with chips injected right into people's arms.
It says it burns a little bit. That's about it.
Atlanta firefighter John Santola was injected with the chip about the size of a grain of rice. When scanned, the number on the chip is linked to a database with Santola's medical history.
I had to go help me in case of an emergency.
Santola was chipped when Florida-based Verichip Corporation set up a booth at an Atlanta firefighter conference. They market the chip primarily for safety reasons, storing medical information for first responders, Alzheimer's patients, even children.
And it is the only product that has been approved by the FDA for this specific purpose.
The FDA approved the use of chips in humans in 2004, but since then it's caused quite a bit of controversy with some consumer groups, concerned about privacy, even health concerns.
These are very powerful tools, especially if they fall in the hands of somebody with political ambitions.
One of the loudest voices of opposition is right here in the Boston area, a Harvard doctor and author of spy chips.
These technologies will not make us safer. I think they'll make us sitting ducks for Big Brother.
Dr. Catherine Albrecht also compiled 16 years of studies she says prove the chip can cause cancerous tumors.
It's clear as day that these tumors were not only malignant, but they metastasized, they spread to the lungs, the liver, the thymus, the brain.
These pictures show the tumors growing around the actual chip in the mice and rats.
Praise our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, everyone. I have something else to show you guys. I'm currently in Savers. It's a thrift store. It's in Warwick, Rhode Island. And they just installed these new self-checkout registers. That's what it looks like. And every single register has this. It says placed list here. What is that?
When you're going to pay in a supermarket, you enter your 4 last digits in your phone number, and then you hold your hand above the sensor. And a transaction takes less than 5 seconds, so it's a very quick payment solution. The vein pattern in your palm is unique for each individual person, and the 4 last digits in your phone number is because people want the moment to just like look at the display and see that the amount is correct before they pay.
This is the mark of the beast technology, everyone. That's what it looks like. But yeah, I haven't seen that anywhere yet. This is the first place I've seen those things at. And the first day I've seen them, I was shocked. I'm like, what in the world is this? You know?
Look what I just figured out, Justine.
Billionaires in Canada have seen their net worth rise by over 30% since the pandemic began. And that can't just be pandemic profiteering, because many of these billionaires have assets in fields that have not done well during the pandemic. So what has caused these assets to inflate in value? Well, the answer is whenever the government, through its central bank, prints $400 billion of money and pumps it into the financial assets of the system, those who have assets become wealthier. And that would be just wonderful if there were no consequences for anyone else. But the historical experience is that when governments print money to pay their bills, which is effectively what they're doing here, that eventually it raises the cost of living for everyone else. Now, the bank claims they're technically not printing money. Well, the data that is available tells exactly the opposite story. In fact, the number of banknotes in circulation, these are the dollar, the bills, the 5s, the 10s, the 20s, that you could purchase things with, is up 8%, even at a time when people are using paper cash less than ever before. This is the largest percentage increase since the mid-1980s. M1 money supply is up 17%, even while the economy shrinks. And when the supply of money exceeds the production of goods and services, eventually, though not immediately, you experience inflation. A phenomenon that the Governor of the Bank of Canada admitted to me before the Finance Committee falls heaviest on the shoulders of the poorest people. Why? Because they deal disproportionately in cash, whereas the wealthy can protect themselves from inflation by shoveling their money into assets that inflate in value. The poor deal mostly in cash and therefore have their very limited net worth eaten away. And so here we have a monstrous policy of transferring wealth from wage earners to asset holders, from the working class to the wealthy. Now, the Prime Minister should know this, because when he was asked his definition of rich versus middle class, he said, well, the middle class are the people who live off wages. The rich are those who live off assets. And here right now we have a policy that is specifically designed to transfer wealth from those who earn wages to those who earn capital gains through their assets. There is no doubt that this phenomenon will lead to a greater concentration of wealth, that the wealthiest 1% who own the most expensive and luxurious real estate and have in their portfolios the most stocks and bonds and other financial instruments are going to continue to see their net worth expand, having done nothing, by the way, to deserve that expanded net worth. It is not because they invented a new product or delivered a new service. It's simply because they sat back in their rocking chairs while the Governor of the Bank of Canada and the banking system that it creates pumped air into those very same assets. Try to talk to a young person who's attempting to buy a house these days. The asset inflation of real property has put that out of reach. Whereas the wealthy who are already landed and in possession of luxurious real estate properties become wealthier.
Listen to me now.
So this one is about giving thanks, you know what I mean, to the spiritual side. Alright, so like what I say, you ever touch a tree at times, family, And when you touch a tree, yeah, the tree tell you thank you. When you go at the ocean tell you thank you. You understand me? When I see the animal them now, the animal them say to me, thank you, Father, for accepting my knowledge and my vibration, you know, because people lost their way. You understand me? These are when me connect with the universe. You understand me? You ever like connect with the universe, family? You will know who is guiding you. You will know who is inside of you. But you have to connect with these things. You have to connect with the animal. You understand me? Yeah. Because if you don't connect with the animal and connect with the physical, you're just going to be as dumb as they try to take us dumb in the physical. You understand me, family? So, open your eyes, open your mind. You understand me, family? You're great and you're powerful. Inbox me, get my number, and we pull together. Remember, family, everything with the flesh, what life made, have a spirit in it. And you connect with that spirit. You understand me? Yeah, you connect with that spirit because that spirit connect with your spirit. That bone connect to your bone. You understand me? That inner energy connect with your energy. So when you go around a tree, know that you connect with the tree. Know that you connect with the water. Know that you connect with the soil. And the greatest connection, everyone is connected to you. You understand, my family? If you do something wrong, it will go out there in the world. You understand me? So do things right. Inbox me, get my number, we pull together. I'm out. Yeah? I'm out.